Mega scoop that CNN News 18 has accessed. This is as far as Hardeep Singh Nijjar's murder in Canada is concerned. We're now learning from our sources that the ISI seems to now be involved. Nijjar's son's statement suggests that it was an ISI job that ensured that Hardeep Singh Nijjar was killed in Canada. Balraj Singh, Nijjar's son, claims that Nijjar met senior officials of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. Intelligence sources suggest that in some way Canadians also supported the ISI and gave access to the killers, which is also why they're now going slow with these investigations. That's the allegation and that's the claim, in fact, that has been made by Hardeep Singh Nijjar's son. This information has been accessed via sources by CNN News 18. It is a super scoop of whether or not there is an ISI hand and whether Canada and its intelligence agencies were complicit in what happened. Remember, several questions have been raised about the lapses, the go slow in the investigation in the past as well. Those questions are being raised from within Canada too. Opposition leaders have been putting Justin Trudeau and his administration in the dock as far as the law and order situation there goes. This news break that we now bring to you puts further lens on those issues as far as complicity and as far as go slow of the Canadian police is concerned. These are claims that have been made by Hardeep Singh Nijjar's son, who goes on to say that it's not just the ISI, but there was backing of the Canadian intelligence services as well as far as Nijjar's killing was concerned. Remember, India has had a very strong stance as far as Nijjar's death is concerned. Trudeau and his administration had blamed India for having a role in this murder. But now we're learning that in fact it could have been Pakistan and the ISI whose role perhaps needs to be investigated. Anand Narasimhan, my colleague, now joining us, getting us more details on this. Anand, as far as Nijjar's death is concerned, the investigation has been going on for several months now. Even after a week of making allegations against India, there has been no proof that has been made public by the Canadian administration, perhaps because of the embarrassment that it would face when questions like these would be asked about go slow, about complicity.
Yes, and this I think also points back at the Trudeau administration, that before he stood on the floor of Parliament, did he actually vet all of these and did the Canadian intelligence actually share all this information? Because Balraj Singh's statement is important and supports perhaps this entire claim that's been coming into intel sources that it was an inside, it was an ISI job, and it was all because of this entire organized crime or business which multiple voices have been pointing to. Was this because of the entire control of the drugs network? And was this a tough war internecine itself, in the sense within the gangsters who were perhaps under ISI's patronage? Because according to his statement, he started meeting them after February. He was in touch with the CSIS officials 6 days before Nijjar was killed, and there was a meeting scheduled even 2 days. That's why there are serious questions saying that why is it that if Nijjar was a person of interest for the Canadian state, why is it that there was only advised and there was no close proximity protection was given to him? And could anybody and everybody actually access Nijjar and reach Nijjar? That's the big question, because he was a person of interest for multiple entities. And he also said that the Canadian authorities told Nijjar that he shouldn't go to his Gurdwara as usual and he should be avoid being seen in public. So if there was an alert about Nijjar and safety and his safety, why? And these are the two people who have not yet been pulled up by the Canadian authorities, Rahat Rao and Tariq Kiani, the two ISI plants in Canada who are actually doing most of the ISI's work. Why is it that the Canadian authorities so far have not registered a single FIR? They have not even put out a list of suspects. How is it? What credible reasons and allegations are they? Is Justin Trudeau actually talking about? Because it's the Canadian intelligence which itself flagged the Sikh extremism or these fundamentalists operating on Canadian soil back in 2018. So multiple questions that remain at this point. And we are given to understand that there are more and more events or also instances and evidences that thing in terms of who controls the turf, who controls the market, and it was also getting it's about cuts and it's about pay dice of the market. So that's the reason why, and the ISI had enough of Nijjar. The ISI had coopted this back in 2017, that the ISI was trying to co-opt him and trying to use him for their narrative and for their own agenda. But now it looks like somewhere that he had become a person of non-interest or non-utility, or he had become too big for their boots, for their liking, and they wanted him out. So it was a classic case of trying to kill two birds with the same stone: get off or do away with Nijjar, bump him off, and then blame it on India and try and misdirect.
Sure. Sure. Questions are also being raised about the go-slow on the investigation, isn't it, Anand? What we've gathered from our sources is that how the police did not arrive in time. There was jurisdictional dispute that took place. Then there was the fact that several eyewitnesses or nearby businesses weren't even contacted for their testimonies or for their perhaps security footage and things like that. So it seems like the police either were purposely not looking into these angles or were just groping in the dark.
Yes, it is. And not just that. There are also sources telling CNN News18 that the ISI has very former ISI officials from the ranks of Major General to Havaldar rank staying in the same area or in the vicinity of Nijjar. And it was impossible for an unknown person to get into close proximity of Nijjar because he was very cautious, and there was intelligence which had been fed to him that there is a threat to his life. And he had been up and about threatening people. And since the death of Ripudaman Malik, there were supporters of Ripudaman Malik also who were targeting him. So there is a huge business and a turf angle to this, which is connected to drugs, which is connected to arms, it is connected to gangsters.
Yes.
So, and Nijjar was becoming powerful. Somewhere, there were people who wanted to clip his wings or somewhere cut him off totally.
That seems like the case. Anand, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. Pathik Payne, security analyst, also joining us here on this broadcast. So thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. It's no secret that the ISI has been propping up Khalistani sympathizers in multiple parts of the world, including in Canada, like Hardeep Singh Nijjar and many others. Could perhaps this be a case of an asset turning into a liability, which is why the ISI stepped in and perhaps bumped him off?
Well, it has always been like that with ISI and the the kind of elements they groom over a period of time. See, I think ISI also was in an anticipation that over a period of time, Article 370 would be inoperative, would be made inoperative, and Kashmir will go out of control of ISI and Pakistan, and that is exactly the way it has happened. That's why I think they were grooming these elements to foment problem in the name of Khalistan in Punjab again, and for that they actually took in rookies, trained them, made them powerful. Anand mentioned about the narcotics cartel, the arms cartel. There is an immigration cartel as well. Whoever gets immigrated to Canada from Punjab, they have to pay a considerable amount of money. That's what I've heard. So once you have all these things, elements piled up, they become very powerful, and then it becomes very difficult for them to get controlled by the deep state, in this case of possibly of Pakistan. But at the same time, there is another issue as to whether the Canadian establishment was aware of this and deliberately was making the entire investigation very shoddy, because the police came almost 20-25 minutes after this incident took place, and then there was a tough battle which started with the Surrey police and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and that tough battle continued for quite some time. For 2 months they did not take testimony of the people in the vicinity. They didn't even try to collect the CCTV footage. So whether there was complicity of a certain section within Canada, they were in the know-to of what's going to happen. After the killing of Ripudaman Singh Malik, and he was about to reveal something about what was happening in Canada. Just before that, he got killed. And something like this happening in case of Nijjar. So I think it is, again, as you rightly mentioned, about an asset turning into a liability. And that has, if you look at the entire history of CIA, if you look at the entire history of ISI, they have time and again created these assets out of liabilities, and then those assets beyond the time becoming liability in turn, because either they were very powerful or they were trying to reveal something. So it's a very complex situation, and there are, I'm sure over a period of time it will be revealed how there are certain deep state elements, not just from ISI but from the Western countries as well, who are propping these elements up just to create problem for India because of its success in G20 presidency, because of its independent foreign policy, because the manner in which India has come up as a voice of the global South. And I think as India progresses, emerges as a more powerful economy, you would see these things coming up from the West. The West need to decide as to whether they are with a sovereign country called India, or they are for all those elements who are secessionist in nature. It is very difficult to presume, Poonam, that if there is an ISI angle, CIA is not aware of it. So there are a lot of these elements ganging up again against India because India is emerging powerful. We have seen what they have tried to do with other countries as well. And I think while we have good friendship with many of the strategically strong countries of the West,
Yes.
I think the West needs to come clear that as a country, India wants good relation with them, whether they would reciprocate it that way or not, or whether on one hand they will extend the hand of friendship, and on the other hand they would actually also extend the hand of friendship to those organizations who want to break India. So the
Sure.
ISI hand is definitely there, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And what Mr. Trudeau thought was perhaps a preemptive strike by blaming India for this seems to now be only leaving him with more egg on his face, given the new facts that are now coming in of alleged complicity of go slow in the investigation especially. Pathikrit Pain, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18.